Well, welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today I'm going to be starting a new Celtic Heroes series where we're going to be looking at covering all of the raid bosses here on Celtic Heroes. There is a lot of people who play this game who really don't understand the ins and outs of each boss and the mechanics that really go into these bosses, and so I'm hoping that through this we will be able to teach a lot of people. And today we're going to be starting with the Necro raid. This raid is pretty simple and straightforward, and it can be found in murky vaults. If you're wondering where, you got the lower cistern, you run up through here and up into the top right hand corner. Looks like our clan is just about to start on this, so I'm gonna look up. Okay, so with this raid, it's one of the weaker raids in this game that requires about 20 people to accomplish. Maybe a bit less. You can usually do it with around maybe like 17. I've seen even as low as like 15 do this raid. And it has two big mechanics that really are primarily played around. Those being the lifesteal and the spirits of it. Now, whenever I approach this boss, I always think of it as one big DPS check. So, generally with this boss, he heals over time with his lifesteal ability, and you kind of just gotta burst him down before he rages, because he gets a lot of healing when he becomes enraged, making this raid significantly harder. But there's almost like a unique twist to this boss, unlike the other Celtic Hero bosses where it's like where you can just fit a whole bunch of people at the raid. This boss requires quality of DPS over quantity of DPS because he lifesteals everything around him. So, getting right into the things. Generally at this location, Necro stands here in the center of basically two bridges here at Murky Vaults. We got the zombie bridge, which is over this way, and we got the ghost bridge, which is over that way. Ghosts spawn on that side, and they try to come over, and you need a team over there to prevent the ghosts from getting to Necro, and you have zombies over here that spawn, and they can fuck up DPS if they're allowed to do so. So generally, you want your rangers. Their primary role usually at raids is to keep ads down, and so no difference here, where that's what their job is as well. Necro's aggro range is extremely short, probably one of the shortest bosses apart from Bloodthorn, of where he will hardly leave this box. This makes him extremely easy to reset if ever need be. People could just run up onto the bridge and he will just reset, so quite easy. Now, Necro's basic attacks are ice-based, meaning that your elemental resistance is going to be very valuable in this raid, especially as a tank. You want high elemental resistance. This makes skills like Bless extremely valuable at this raid. And so, yeah, he has another attack, which is his AoE lifesteal, which he kind of just goes bleh everywhere, and it hits people, does damage, and he lifesteals from it. Now, there's a shout. If I can see that's him calling for ads and stuff. Epstein the Necromancer drains the life from those around him with an icy blast. That is it. So whenever you see that, when it pops up, I will execute on the mechanic. See, right here. Or, yep. So you run back. It goes off. Boom. And then you Shadow Strike back. As a rogue, that is the general mechanic. Most DPS follow that. My clan is strong enough that we usually just brute force this boss and it doesn't matter. But for all you weaker clans out there, rogues run back especially, and you do that unless you have a druid who's going to cast Sanctuary, but we'll get into all that later. Okay, getting into some of the ads of this boss. the Acolytes. Those are the 2 5-star ads that we killed at the start of the raid. They are 2 of them. They spawn next to him, and their essential goal is that they only really cast a shield on Necro, making him not take damage. So they must be killed on respawn immediately when that occurs. Pretty easy, pretty simple mechanic. Yeah, the skeleton guards, they also spawn up on there. They are a lesser swarm style ad where they just kind of go burr and like fuck anything up, which is why you gotta be careful. Rangers need to stay on top of that, and other DPS who are in the area stay on top of them, because if they get out of control, they can really start stacking up the curse mechanic on DPS, and then that's just going to make this raid even more miserable. That does happen. Now getting into the spirits. Now, the spirit group has its own dedicated group, usually 4 to 5 people, and their responsibility is to stand up on that bridge. You can see them off in the distance, and they prevent the spirits from running across. Now, the spirits, their objective is reach Necro. If they do reach Necro, Necro just kind of kills them and he heals, and it's not fun for anyone anywhere. So you want to prevent that from happening. You do need a druid and generally your EDL weapons, because the spirits are immune to pretty much most kinds of damage except for specific skills, and then divine damage is unresisted, as well as the ability like the swarm ability from the druids, which is like summons the bees. So druids, if you're not running bees in your spirit group, you're like trolling, and I see it happen so much. It just needs to stop, and I think a lack of that mechanic specifically is probably why I'm making this video. But yeah, always run bees if you're a druid in spirit group. It's AoE divine damage. Well, it's not really divine damage, but it's essentially divine damage to the spirits, where it's just unresisted AoE damage. The EDL offhand skills cannot do that much, especially since they're single target. So druids, start running bees on spirits, please. Back on Necro real quick for different damage types. So he is extremely resistant to piercing damage. Piercing damage is really weak. This is the weakest damage type to have against him of the 3 physical types, being slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing. So bludgeoning and slashing are much better than piercing. Also, ice mages. You're utterly useless at this raid. I'm sorry. Necro is very resistant to ice damage. Use fire damage instead. This is why alt books come in real handy here. And rogues, you guys don't have it any better. Poison damage is not a thing at this raid. Necro is completely immune to poison damage. So get out your slashing skills, and I mean all of your piercing damage. So rogues are pretty useless here. Sorry, it's just how it is. Rangers, general DPS build is going to be pretty standard, stock standard build there. You stand at range behind this table over here in the corner. No ads will come to you, and you can just generally be safe there. So mages, yeah, fire damage. So like we got a couple people here who are kind of like trolling, like, so all your druids and mages should be standing outside of, or should be casting their spells from outside heal range. That's one weird thing that makes this fight difficult, is when they aren't. He just ends up healing more. So make sure you're doing damage from outside the AoE of death range. Rangers can do it from behind the table. Mages and druids up on the bridge, they should be fine. So yeah, apart from that, general builds that you're going to be looking at on this raid, for rogues, just no poison damage. You do want to take 1 level of Shadow Strike, and that is so you Shadow Strike back to the boss after the blast, or the lifesteal blast, has gone off. Other than that, you're going to look for skills like Rend, Sneak Attack, Assassinate, which I got here, And then quick strike is going to be your general damage tool. And then, of course, your offhanded skill is probably going to be your best friend here. For mages, yep, just fire damage, your firestorm, firebolt, that good stuff. A lot of lures. You're going to need all your stock standard lures. Lure of fire, as you can see. Lure of assassins. You're also going to need like smoke bomb here and expose weakness for you support rogues out there. That is required at every raid. Again, we don't have it because our clan is kind of lame today. Druids, Sanctuary, and Bless are probably your two best skills here. If you, because basically when that AoE lifesteal blast thing goes off, the idea is Druid cast Sanctuary on the group, because as one of the skills that the shield will nullify the heal. It is one of the only ways to nullify the heal, and so gotta do that. Bash is really good as well at this raid, just as usual. Tanks don't have to worry too much. All they have to really worry about is taunting. This boss is, since it's a DPS check, doesn't do much damage. Primary concern is just going to be about keeping it aggroed and just staying alive. Don't accidentally die. But it's a really easy boss to tank. So mediocre tanks and hybrid tanks at best can tank it pretty easily. So yeah, let's talk about some of the drops that Necro drops and why we killed this boss in the first place. Well, the two most important drops probably from this boss that everyone wants are going to be your blood and oblivion rings. I got 2 blood rings right here. They give strength and vitality and 700 dagger, which is really OP. And then I think this guy, yeah, see, we got an oblivion ring here. So yeah, that gives bow. So the same thing, but for the bow ability, which increases your attack. These are some of the best perma-slot rings in the game. As they increase your weapon damage and your attack. So super OP. Other things that warriors are probably going to be looking for: your weapon rings for axe, and maybe like spear, stuff like that. For mages, they're really going to be wanting their ice and fire rings, while druids are going to be wanting their nature's rings. Totem rings kind of suck. Cunning rings are also pretty good here, as those are going to help support rogues, really amplify their skills like Shadow Strike. Not necessarily this boss, but on other bosses, the cunning will amplify Shadow Strike and expose weakness and your smoke bomb, as well as poison weapons. If you're doing a supportive, like keeping poison weapons up on all of your allies. Other good drops are going to be your recast braces. These are going to be some of your best braces to hot swap. Apart from the skill braces dropped by Gelly, these are probably some of the better ones in the game. And yeah. So apart from that, I think that covers just about everything. Yeah, see, we got these guys are back up. The apostles are not immune to poison damage, though, all you rogues out there, unlike Necro. So we're gonna quickly kill off these guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the raid while we finish it up. Okay, now that that's done, so got a Mighty Ring of Living Bone, we got a Necro Ring of Pummel, Necro Ring of the Pit, and Mighty Necro Ring of Rot. Ultimately, drops weren't that good, unfortunately. So, well, maybe we'll have better luck next time on those. But I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.